The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are coming to you from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And we're thrilled to be here with you this morning in this interactive format. I want to remind you that we're going to be here for the next hour talking about autism. We've got a really interesting show and a really interesting topic to talk about. We hope that the whole hour will be interactive. We'd love to hear from you. We want to know your thoughts, your feelings, your questions, your concerns, your comments, your dreams, your hopes, like all of it. We're interested in all of it. And there are lots of ways to connect with us. Traven's going to show you some of the easy ways to connect. And while he does that, he's got all these fun things popping up from different directions. It's a brand new thing. It's just, I'm sorry, I'm just noticing it. But while he's doing that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, there's so much to do. You can chat with us live. There is a chat button at the bottom of the page. Click on that and it opens up a box and you can be talking with us. But it's just one of the ways. I think a lot of you like to converse on Facebook and on YouTube, and that's totally fine. We enjoy that. I will warn you that we never get to everybody's comments. It's just, you know, we just end up not having the time. And a lot of times on Facebook, because I'm sure if you've watched the show before, you've noticed that I'm not good at walking, talking, and chewing gum. So I can't respond in text to the Facebook while I'm talking to you. I know other hosts can do it, but you know, I'm not them. But often I will go back later on and I will see comments that I didn't see during the show and I will respond on Facebook. I don't have the luxury of doing that on our YouTube channel because for some reason when YouTube does live, it doesn't hold the live show there. It actually, we record the show and it re-uploads to YouTube, but it doesn't have the original comments with it. It's just one of the things about the way YouTube does stuff. So I'm not able to go back later on and address the comments. So know that on YouTube, if you're like, well, I asked and she never answered, I don't know what that, because I don't see them after the fact. It's one of the big bummers. YouTube, we need you to change that for us. If you could do that, that'd be swell. And I'm sure YouTube's just sitting around waiting to change things for us. Maybe they are. But anyway, we encourage you to reach out in any way that you want. It's free. It's anonymous. I mean, I guess when you're on YouTube and Facebook, people can see who you are. On our chat, they cannot. So there's that. And you can also email me. I'm happy to get emails from you. It's s.penrod@autism-live.com. It's up on the screen there, but for those of you listening on YouTube, that's S as in Shannon, and then there's a dot, and then it's P as in Peter, E as in egg, N as in Nancy, R as in robot, O as in Oscar, D as in dog, at autism. I'm not even going to spell that for you because I know you how to spell that. And then it's hyphen, and that's the dash, the one that's in the middle, right? Live, L as in lollipop, I as in igloo, V as in Victor, and E as in egg.com. That is my email. Please feel free to email me with anything because then there's no restriction on how many characters you can use. All right. So having said all of that, we welcome you to the show. We do want to know your thoughts and feelings. We have a lot of experts who are on the show. We have one that'll be on the show in a little while. I am not one of the experts. I'm an autism mom, former teacher, proud autism mom, and proud mom. Let's just say that, right? And I got a lot of help and support along the way, and I don't know where I would be if that hadn't been the case. And I certainly don't know where my son would be if that had not been the case. So I believe in the laws of karma and that you have to pay forward, right? What has been given to you, and that, that's the right thing to do. So I appreciate having the opportunity to be here with you to help discern questions for you, because a lot of times I just want to be honest here, because we don't know exactly what you're going through. It's very hard to provide a definitive answer, right? That would be misleading. But I think what we do here best is we provide information and inspiration, so that hopefully you feel inspired to go and ask more questions because you got information. That would make me the happiest if we could have the opportunity to do that for you, but also give you a safe place to come where all your questions are welcome. There's nothing that you could say that would be inappropriate, and that you feel supported, because, boy, at some point, it's important, that we don't all feel like we're on a planet by ourselves, right? And it can feel that way. By the way, when I'm speaking to we, I'm speaking to the greater, larger autism community, which of course includes individuals who are on the spectrum. It includes their parents, it includes their siblings, everyone who loves them, their teachers, the people who are working with them, everybody, right? And you know what I say? We hold hands and si se puede. We can do this because we should do this, right? All right, moving on. We always like to start Monday mornings with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to figure out what are those experts talking about? What does it have to do with me? Do I really need to understand what all those letters stand for? What's the big deal? And if it's such a big deal, why can't you just say it in English, right? Don't we all feel that way at some point? So we give you the word, the phrase, the acronym. We give you the actual definition. A lot of times we make fun of that, just keeping it real. And then we give you a working definition where we try to break down, what does this actually mean to you today, and give you a toehold. Maybe you don't get it the first time. Don't beat yourself up. A lot of these terms, it takes 6, 7, 8 times for us to really understand it. And in between, we're seeing things and going, oh, that's what that is. By the way, that is an exact mirror often to how our kids learn. That maybe they don't get it the first time. No harm, no foul. We'll teach it a slightly different way. They don't get it then, no harm, no foul. But we get to the point where our kids go, oh, I get it now. And then we party, right? Okay. And we just rinse and repeat and do that over and over and over again. Okay, so today's jargon term, you can see it there. I always go, I have mirror problems. Carol Merrill is off here. BCBA. And we say this a lot. And anytime that I start using a jargon term on the show that you're like, Shannon, have you forgotten? I don't really know what that term means and you haven't explained it to me. Feel free to call me out on that, because I have gone to the dark side and I use the jargon interchangeably now. It's very scary to me. I will use perseverate in a sentence, and sometimes I'm not even talking about autism. It's like, oh no, I need Ileana Van Zandt to save me. Okay, so our term today is BCBA. I'm giving it away. Let's show what the actual definition is, Traven. It's a board certified behavior analyst. That's what it is. It's a board certified behavior analyst. I don't know about you, but like the first time somebody said that to me, I was like, okay, and what is that? What exactly would that be? So let's go on to our working definition so we can see exactly what that is. That's someone who's trained extensively in the principles of ABA. Now, I would like for you to notice something. It does not say autism there. Huh? Wait a second. Can we look at that again? Where's the word autism in there? And a lot of times, people new to the tribe will say, oh, well, ABA, one of those words has to be autism, right? It's not. ABA is applied behavior analysis. So a BCBA is someone who's trained extensively in the principles of ABA. So what's that got to do with autism? Well, autism first of all, ABA is a very old science of behavior, and that is about everybody, not just people on the autism spectrum. It's about behavior. And notice that I didn't say human behavior, because ABA works with human behavior. It also works with animal behavior and plant behavior, because they all have behavior, right? They may not all be the same, but they have behavior. But it just so happens that back in 1987, the first study, the seminal study, was published, that was from Dr. Ivar Lovaas, that showed that ABA, guess what? Very effective at teaching people on the autism spectrum. And nobody knew that before. There was no study that showed, oh, by the way, this will work. Now, Lovaas showed that it would work with very specific criteria. And so now we have individuals who are in the field of ABA, and some of them, a growing number of them, work in the field of ABA for autism, right? That's a very specific thing. But a large portion of them don't. They work in the field of ABA, and they apply this to Olympic athletes. They apply this to senior citizens in old folks' homes. I know that's not what they're called. I don't know what they're called now. They apply it to businesses. There's, ABA is used in the world of corporations to better outcomes and have employees healthier so that they use less health benefits, that they don't have more critical illnesses due to stress. How about just like pure getting more done? And not quitting their jobs because they like where they work and they feel reinforced. There's a whole field of ABA that does that, right? So we talk a lot about how important it is to have a BCBA who is on your case when you're an individual who is on the autism spectrum, or you have a child who's being treated with ABA. It's really critical to have a BCBA on your case. But a lot of times a parent will say to me, well, there is a governing board, that is the board that certifies, and that's called the BCBA, right? Yeah, I think I got my letters right. And you can go to bcba.com and you can look up in your state who the BCBAs are. And these are people that have gone through this rigorous process. They've gone through rigorous schoolwork, and then they have literally sat for an exam, passed the exam. They take continuing education credits to keep their certification, and they are held to ethical standards, which are very important, right? And we want to work with people that have that, right? But if all you did was go to the BCBA and you looked up BCBAs in your neighborhood and said, oh, well, Janet Fieldhopper is a BCBA and she lives one town over. I'm going to call her and ask her to do ABA with my child. What you might find is that Janet Fieldhopper doesn't have anything to do with autism. And Janet Fieldhopper might be very forthcoming with you and say, I just don't work in the field of autism. I know somebody else who does, or go back to the BACB. Now I've got my letters all messed up, but you know what I'm trying to say. So go back to the board and look at and find another BCBA. My point here is that not only do we need to have a BCBA on our case when we have kids on the autism spectrum, we need to have ones that are working in the field of autism and are trained in the field of autism and are doing and following research in the field of autism. That's the BCBA that you want. And, recent studies have shown that having an experienced BCBA on your case at some point is really critical. So a lot of ABA providers, like the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, have a BCBA mentorship program where a newer BCBA is always they have somebody who does oversight on them that's a more experienced BCBA. I call these people the architects. These are the people who decide what program your child learns in what order. So we see that your child has a bunch of skills that they need to know how to do. They need to know how to read. They need to know how to brush their teeth. They need to know how to respond when a kid is mean to them. They need to know how to be able, and I'm just, these are just a couple of things, but they need to be able to take their book out and turn to page 23 when the teacher says, take your book out and turn to page 23. So which one of those do you want to work on first? And, you might say, well, I want to work on being able to read. Let's just say that you decide that you want to do that. And it's like, well, wait a second, there's precursors to that, because we don't just sit down and teach somebody how to read in one session, right? First, we have to teach, letter recognition, and then we need to teach the sounds, and then we need to teach something called phonemes, and, and then all these other things that go into place before we get to the point where the child can read. Every like, let's say we have an 8-year-old who doesn't know how to read. Do we do all of those lessons with an 8-year-old? Maybe not, because maybe this 8-year-old already knows letter recognition. And then maybe they didn't learn the sounds, but maybe they learned sight words, right? So they've got a gap here. And after we've done an assessment, what the BCBA does is sits down and goes, oh, look, that's where the gap is. If we teach this, we're going to be able to skip over here, right? And so I want to teach this first, but the BCBA might say, I believe, that this is a little bit lacking, and they'll arrange things specific to the child. The better the architect, the better the structure, the better the scaffolding to learn, right? So a BCBA is absolutely essential when you want to do skill acquisition. Got to have that BCBA. But I'll tell you when the BCBA is even more important, when you have challenging behavior. And a lot of our kids do, because they have not had the way of conveying what they want to do. They have found other methods. I kick you, I bite you, I throw things, I scream, I hit my brother, and that's how I get my needs met. And they've gotten used to it. And it's their way of operating, and changing that operation can be a very dicey thing, and sometimes even dangerous. So having a trained BCBA there to say, here's how we're going to do it. I've seen this before, and here are the things that we're going to implement first, can make the difference. It's just like, haven't you ever been around somebody in your family that believed in potty training and the really horrible, like punish the child, have the child scream, and it ends up being this 2-year project where the child is making messes, and it's like, I think we might have taken a wrong turn here somewhere, versus the parent who says, oh, I already know the Fox and Azarin system. We're going to take a weekend. We're going to make it really reinforcing. We're going to make this child thrilled when they do this in the potty. And suddenly it's Monday. The child is potty trained for the rest of their life. And there's no more hassle. And the child feels good. The parent feels good. Like that difference. We want that. Right? And that's what your BCBA can do. That's what your BCBA can do with the challenging behavior. So I'm all about loving me some BCBAs. These are a group of people that I have nothing but the highest respect for. The thing that I'm always trying to do is bridge the gap between parents and BCBAs, because BCBAs have this knowledge, and they know all about our kids. They don't know about us. And I'm trying to bridge that. I do a lot of speaking engagements now where I go and talk to BCBAs about us, about parents, and the things we need, and how we need to be explained, and how we don't know what's in their head. We don't know what an ABA program looks like. We don't know if we're doing it right. We don't know. So ironically, I go to BCBAs and tell them all about the perspective taking they need to do of the parent, and what they need to know to make us successful. I find that hilarious. But I know that when BCBAs cue us in to what's going on, good stuff happens. So anyway, BCBA, get one, but don't get just anyone. Get a BCBA in the field of autism. And then make sure that somewhere on your team, if not that BCBA, somebody else is very experienced, so that you have the best architects to take you to the place you want to go, which is very individual. And that's the really good thing. Okay, that's our jargon for today. We always have a question of the day. We want to know today, you ready for this? Because this goes hand in hand, right? I want you to name one thing you would only trust an expert with. Like what in your life are you willing to go, okay, I think I can do this myself. And then you're like, I think I better get an expert. And guess what? It's different for different people. I have a niece that was talking to me about her brakes. And she was like, yeah, I said, what are you doing this weekend? And she said, I got to change my brakes. And I was like, oh, okay, So you're dropping the car off someplace, you got a brake guy. And she was like, what? No, I change my own brakes. To me, this is a level of insanity that I don't know about, right? I would never, ever, like, I don't even, like, and she's fabulous with that kind of thing, but I don't want to ride in her car. This is what I'm saying, right? Because an expert should do this. I want somebody who has the piece of paper that says they graduated from brake school and that they got 5 stars, right? I want an expert doing brake work on a car. It's me, right? And it's certainly not my niece. Okay, but what else? What else is there that you're like, no? My landlord, there was something with the dishwasher. He came over and he fixed it. Okay, that would not be me. I would be like, let me get the person who has the piece of paper that says I do dishwasher work and I am certified with this particular brand of dishwasher, right? But that's not everybody. So I'm asking you, what would you absolutely be like, no, I'm going to do an expert there? Like, would you do surgery on your own kid? I hope that you're saying, well, for heaven's sake, Shannon, no, I would get an expert for that. I hope that that would be the thing that you say. Because even if you are a doctor, you shouldn't be operating on your own kid, right? Why am I saying all this? Because so often when it comes to behavior, we have been given this notion that, well, we should know. We should know how to deal with behavior. By the way, people say this to teachers all the time. Well, the child is misbehaving in the class, so we'll fix that. I'm sure you know how to do that. But where do they learn how to do that? There are people who are experts in the classroom who know how to deal with challenging behavior. And usually there's one in every single school, and it's the BCBA. Sometimes it's the school psychologist, right? But the BCBA is really there because they're a board certified behavior analyst, right? It's what they are an expert in. And so I would say to anybody who's watching who is an autism parent, please let go of the notion that you are supposed to automatically, somehow in your sleep or when the child was born, have downloaded in your brain a manual that told you everything about how to deal with behavior and how to deal with autism behavior. That is a lie. That didn't happen. And it's not your fault, and you're not a bad parent for not knowing. But time is of the essence, and your child needs some help and support. Get a BCBA, get the expert in there, learn what they know, and then you'll be fine. I wouldn't have somebody do my brakes. I'm not going to have somebody who's not a behavior analyst and an expert, a board certified one, to come in and design a program to help my child with challenging behavior. I hope that you feel the same way. Okay, so let's move on to our topic of the week. We got a new topic this week, and it's an age-old technique of understanding things, and that's good, better, best. In fact, all advertising is now based on this because it's shown to be really effective, that there's a sliding scale of things that you can do almost anywhere. Call up anybody. You want to get your pool cleaned, and they'll say, well, would you like, the bronze, silver, or the gold plan? Well, I don't know. What do they entail? Well, the bronze plan is good. Don't get me wrong, it's perfectly good, but we'll go in and we'll do X, Y, and Z. Now, if you want something a little bit extra, we can give you the better plan. And if you really want to pull out all the stops and pay for some extra care for your swimming pool, then we can give you the best plan. Which one would you like? And they'll tell you what the prices are from, right? And this is pretty much true in all things right now. So I want to talk a little bit for just a second about the good, better, best of autism, right? Because it's important that your child get functional communication. It's important that your child get opportunities to learn. Now more than ever, there are people who have access to insurance. And what that means is that you have access to the best. That's what that means. Because before, we would say to families, well, look, if you start an ABA program in your home and you're going to have to hire people and you're going to have to train them, but we've seen that be very effective. That's a good thing. Hard, but good, right? Then, technology got a little bit better, and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders was able to say to people, look, You're too far away to get to a center where we have the best, and you've got the good in place, but if you'd like a better, what we can do is have our people once every 3 months travel to where you are, tune up things. That would be better than the good, right? The good would be important, but what would be better is if we could have people drop in. But let's be clear about what is best. What is best for autism treatment is if you live close enough to a center and can bring your child into the center to be available for some sessions center-based. We know that that's what's most effective. So that's the good, better, best of autism. So when we're talking to you about things that we hope that you will do and put in place, I always feel bad because some people don't have access to the best. And that's a bummer. That's a really big bummer, and those people have to work hard, but they can still have what's good, and in some cases they can have what's better, right? But for those of you who have the best, I want to speak to you for a moment of a realization that that is what indeed you have. You have access to the best. I am seeing a growing number of parents who just don't know that. They don't understand what the progression was and how there wasn't insurance, and so many of us fought for our kids to have the right. I mean, the first few years that we did this show, all I talked about was leveling the playing field. Why does a kid in California have access to the best and a kid in Kansas doesn't? It didn't sit well with me. Yeah, I was sitting in California, my kid had the best, but that didn't sit well with me. It shouldn't sit well with you. Now, there are people in Kansas who have access to the best, and some of them aren't taking advantage of it. Some of them are just like, I don't know that we have the time. It seems like it's a lot of money. It isn't. It's a lot less money than it ever was. It's still some money and an investment, but we have ways around that as well. We had Julie Kornack talking about that on Friday. There are more ways than ever to get the funding to be able to afford this for more families. Don't let the chance pass you. And if you're somebody who signed up for and jumped through the hoops and did all the work, and now you're there and you're getting the best, and you thought it was going to be easy, let me give you a hug. It's not easy. It's not easy. It's never going to be easy. Worth it. That's what we need to focus on. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it. But there's a growing number of parents who are telling me that they're specifically asking for fewer hours so that they can have more of their family life. And I understand why you think that, but it's a wrong turn. It's an absolute wrong turn. What you're doing is trading a moment in time where you could do everything so that you could have your family life later on without therapy. That's what you're trading. Do the full prescription and don't cancel. That's the other thing. Whenever a parent says to me, well, we were having this many hours but we canceled that so that we could go to Gymboree, or we canceled that so that we could go to preschool. I can't speak across the board because I don't know your preschool, except that there are 0 studies showing that preschool of any kind, anywhere, was as effective as ABA. So what you did was you said, nah, I don't really want what's best. I'll settle for good. And if you're comfortable with that, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Because there are families right now who are having to cuddle up to good because it is their only option. And they are toughing it out, and they would do so much to be in your shoes. Please, 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 please look at what you got going on and ask yourself, am I in the good, better, or best? And am I taking full advantage of wherever I am? Because we're going to be asking you to do that now, this week, and forever. If you've got the best, take advantage of it. If you've got good, that's not nothing. Take as much advantage of it as you can. But let's look to see, can we get it to better, right? And can you get to best? And when you get to best, you got to do it. All right, I've gone on way too long. So we've got a great show for you today. We've got Jackie Carter, who's going to be joining us in just a minute. She's the creator of something called the No Reach pouches. I'm excited to hear more about this. I think it's a really important thing that we talk about. We've seen countless horrible things happening in the news with individuals being misunderstanding between police and individuals. And, we hope that police get better trained, but we can't just sit around and hope, right? We got to do. So Jackie's going to show us what she's got going on, what she created to hopefully mitigate some of that. And then we'll answer some of your questions, but stick with us. We'll be back after these messages.
Hey, I'm Candace Cameron Bray.
Tom Bergeron.
You're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
And you're watching Autism Live.
You're watching Autism Live.
Hi everyone, welcome to Camp Ed 2019. And we are so excited because this is our first camp where we're in our new home. We have an incredible ballroom dance class going right now, so let's come and take a look.
Camp Ed at the Ed Asner Family Center is an inclusive arts camp featuring some of your favorite arts programs. We have a little over 3 weeks of camp left. We want you to come and join the excitement.
Hi, I'm Nava Pasquitz Asner, the co-founder of the Ed Asner Family Center and the founder of Camp Ed. And I'd like to introduce you to Andrew Pascal, who is my new camp director for 2019.
We have a very action-packed last 3 weeks of camp. Next week we have Art Week, where we're gonna do a color run. We're gonna get really colorful. We're gonna tie-dye some clothes. The week after that, we're doing Heroes Week, where we're gonna talk about heroes as well as fictional superheroes. Our last week is Surf Week and Celebration Week. And Nava, can you tell us a little bit about Surf Week?
Yes, definitely. This is my favorite day of the entire summer. We're going to be working with the amazing surf therapists of A Walk on Water, and they're just going to give us a great day, beach, fun, just a really wonderful, safe day. Please come join us at Camp Ed 2019.
Yeah!
Woo-hoo!
To join us for a week or the next 3 weeks, call us at 818-302-0712. Once again, that's 818-302-0712. Camp Ed and the Ed Asner Family Center were created by our family for your family.
Well, I'll be hornswoggled.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're very excited. Joining us right now via Skype is Jacqueline Carter, but I think you go by Jackie, is that right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And Jackie is the president of the Alliance for Safe Traffic Stops. That's ASTS. And she is the inventor of Not Reaching. She has an Associate of Arts degree in Information Technology, a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice, a Master of Science in Legal Studies, and a Master of Public Administration with a concentration in criminal justice. So what you're telling me, Jackie, is that you're just a slouch. You got like nothing going on. My goodness, all those degrees.
I'm pretty.
I'm sorry, you're pretty what?
I'm pretty bored, aren't I?
I'm guessing you're a type A personality. So
Absolutely.
I love that. So talk to us a little bit about what Not Reaching is and why you invented this.
Well, Not Reaching is a vehicle identification pouch. It clips to your driver's side air vent. That's very important. It clips on your driver's side air vent, and it holds your driver's license, registration, and insurance card. So when an officer approaches you during a traffic stop, you no longer have to reach and have all those sudden movements that the officers say make them nervous during traffic stops.
Yeah. And, I can only imagine, but why did this become something that was important to you?
For me, it kind of became very important for me after the death of Philando Castile in Minnesota in July of 2016. This man did nothing wrong. He actually obeyed every rule of the traffic stop. And when he went to reach for his license, was shot over 6 times and killed in his vehicle.
And that's the kind of thing that keeps you up, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's just unthinkable.
It was just, and I think over the last few years, there have been so many different things that were occurring. And, it's almost like PTSD because we see it on the news over and over again.
Yeah.
But for me, his situation was probably the worst thing I had ever seen on social media, that we actually saw it in real time. And, I told my husband, I said, no, we can't keep talking about the problem. Someone has to create some kind of solution.
Well,
so that's what
I love
tried.
that. I love that your head went to, because we talk a lot on this show about how there's some stuff that you don't have control over. We talk about the Serenity Prayer, you know, grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change, but the courage to change what I can. And sometimes that's the whole key right there. And obviously knowing the difference, the wisdom to know the difference. So you looked at this and said, I can't change all aspects of this, but what could I change? And so how did you come up with this idea of the pouch and how does it attach to the event? Do you have one there that you can show us?
You know what? I'm not at. I just walked away from my desk.
Oh, that's okay. No, that's okay. We've got a picture of it there.
There it is.
Okay.
So it actually has a magnet that clips onto the air vent, similar to what you have for your cell phones. That clip on. So it clips on the back. It has a magnet on the pouch. So your information is placed in the pouch. So when an officer comes to the car, you don't even have to move your hands. You can tell an officer to take it off. It's that close.
Yeah.
And that readily available. And I just can't, people think I'm, making this up, but I'm not. I actually said to my husband, I'm going to pray until something happens. Every night for months, I continue to say, show me something, show me something. And one morning I got up, and my husband will attest to it. I said, I got it. And he looked at me and said, you got what? And I said, I got the answer. So I sketched it out. I went to a couple of my friends who are police officers, showed them what I was creating, and we kind of worked it out, and that's how the pouch came.
And what did those police officer friends say? Did they say that this would make it easier for them to understand what the person is doing?
Yeah, they said, it totally is a de-escalation tool for them. And not only that, they already, it's almost like a badge of cooperation.
Yeah.
It's showing the officer that you're cooperating with them, you're not moving, your hands are where they can see them. And it's also helping the officer. The officer now is like, oh, okay, they have a not reaching pouch. They already know the procedure. They're cooperating.
And so let me ask you this, for the people, I imagine that you use this on a regular basis. Are you using it now?
I use it every day.
Okay. And so is it a thing where you put the pouch there and then you take it down when the car is parked, or do you leave it there the whole time?
No, I take it down almost like muscle memory. You have to get yourself used to, like you got yourself used to putting on a seatbelt. You have to get yourself used to putting the pouch on, taking it off. So as soon as I get in a car, I put my seatbelt on, I reach in my center console, I put the pouch on the magnetic clip.
There you go.
And I take it off every night after I'm out of the car. My husband uses it every day. A lot of people are using it.
And so where can people get it, Jackie? Where is this at?
It's online. It's at notreaching.com. It's very simple, notreaching.com.
Yeah.
And now, not only do I have the regular pouch, but I also have the autistic pouch. I have a pouch for the deaf community. I have a pouch for those who carry firearms. And I also have a pouch for medical marijuana license.
Wonderful. And so what's different about the autism pouch?
The autism pouch actually says on the front of the pouch, officer, I have autism.
Wonderful.
So when the officer comes to the vehicle, not only are you seeing the pouch, you already know what the condition of the driver is.
Yeah.
So there's no ambiguity in what's going on with that motorist. My nephew has Asperger's syndrome. Mm-hmm. He just got his license 3 weeks ago, and the first thing I did was give him a not reaching pouch, and I'm also reinforcing the scenarios of traffic stops. He's a young black male, he's 18 years old, who has Asperger's syndrome. So he really needs to understand what goes on during traffic stops. So that reinforcement along with his autistic not reaching pouch will help him.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing that more and more adults on the autism spectrum are driving. And for those that can, that's a great thing to be able to do. But we have seen incidences. The one that really jumps out at me was the young man who was 19 years old. He was just a few blocks away from his dad. He was driving and he was pulled over by a police officer. And he immediately, as the police officer was coming up to the door, was texting his dad saying, "I've been pulled over by the police." And the dad panicked and said, "Wait right there, I'm coming right over." And so now the young man, he didn't really know how to respond, and he was getting upset in the car, and the police officer was telling him to do things, but the son was listening to what his dad said. So now dad pulls up in the pickup truck and says, "Hey, officer, and the officer is like, what's happening? I have somebody who's not compliant, and now I have an accomplice who's pulled up." And the officer was saying, "Stay out of this, sir." But the dad was being a dad, and he kept coming, and he was like, "That's my son, he has autism." And the officer said, "Step back," pulled the gun, and dad ended up being tased. That's where that went. And you know what? I've seen the video, horrible to watch, but dad could easily have ended up dead. Like that could have happened.
And we have to, and one thing that my nonprofit organization, the Alliance for Safe Traffic Stops, does is we actually train and educate drivers as well as officers on really the proper procedures of traffic stops. It's not that difficult, but people in the moment, in the heated moment, in the nervous moment, just forget all of the basic things that they should do.
Yeah.
You turn your car off, your windows are down, your hands are on the steering wheel, you have your not reaching pouch. Yeah. All these things, officer, yes sir, yes ma'am. Everything like that will help you live for another day to fight whatever happened that you feel is an injustice.
That's right. And it's a small little moment, but it's a particular dance, and if you do the dance wrong, the police officers then are on this heightened thing. They get adrenaline, and bad stuff happens. We've seen it time and time again. So we go to notreaching.com, and when we get there, we can choose which pouch that we want. What's the price point on this, Jackie?
They're $9.99.
Okay. And that includes the magnet and everything to be able to install it onto your thing, and it's there, and it's got the wording, and it's very, very clear. And I assume it comes with like some instructions.
Actually, there are no instructions. There's videos on my website so that will help people understand how to use it. I haven't had anyone really ask me about instructions, but I think that's actually a good suggestion for the specialty pouches. So we could actually put instructions inside.
Well, and having the video instructions, I think that's good too. Now, did I read that you've been trying to get this item onto Shark Tank?
I actually pitched it to Shark Tank. We pitched it in May. We were invited back for the second round, and we pitched it again, but we did not get on the final show.
Oh, that's a bummer. Well, I hope that they will rethink that, because that's a missed opportunity.
I do too.
Yeah.
It sure is.
So I hope they'll take note of that and rethink that. But in the meantime, I want to thank you for coming up with this. I want to thank you for being solution oriented, because that's what we need, is more people like you on this planet right now today.
Yeah, we have too many problems, and I always tell people there's profit in problems. We can continue to talk about it, and people will funnel money through problems, but they won't funnel too much money through a solution.
That's right.
And that's okay, but guess what? We're going to keep finding solutions so that these things don't happen.
Well, I'm on your team. And thank you so much for being that, because I wouldn't have come up with that in a million years. That's not how my brain works. So I'm glad to be on a planet where there's people like you thinking of those kinds of solutions. Thank you so much for being with us. We want to encourage everybody to go to notreaching.com and get a pouch for yourself. And what a great gift during the about to be holiday season.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, and it was a pleasure being on your show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
And, we talked about this in terms of autism, you guys, but honestly, who is it in your life that needs to have one of these? And I think we're naive if we don't think everybody, right? So I encourage you, notreaching.com. All right, we are going to take a break, and then we are going to come back and answer some of the questions that you guys have. Stick with us.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back to Autism Live. So we had a question that came in on the live feature, a parent wanting to know, how do I get what's best for my child at school? Because we were talking, our topic this week is about good, better, best. Well, school is a very specific thing when we start talking about best. So the law in the United States of America that we function under, function under two different sets of laws. One is the ADA, which is Americans with Disabilities Act, and then there's IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, right? So when your child is at school, they are protected by those two very specific things. And usually, we spend more time dealing with the IDEA, but when you have to, you pull out the ADA, and that's like the, the big thing when you have to. But the more day-to-day kind of stuff tends to go under IDEA. And under IDEA, your child is entitled to FAPE, which is a free, appropriate public education. And one of the big deals here is that nowhere there does it say best. It's not a free best appropriate, it's the free appropriate public education. So it's really important when you're at IEPs that you be savvy enough to remember that when we are at IEPs as a group of people, parents, we just cut that word out of our language. We don't say best because they pounce all over it. And sometimes they don't pounce on it in front of us. They pounce on it in another room outside that they go, oh, this parent doesn't really know what they're talking about. Because if you're asking for best, it is a signal that you have not been fully informed, and they will take full advantage of you. And I say that, it's not everybody that will do that, but a lot of times people, and not all of them, I don't want to generalize, but people who are in school administration have gotten used to not having enough funds for everyone. So they pick and choose. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. I'm sure that they justify it somehow and say, well, we have to keep, school happening for enough people. But it's very hard. Like, I want what's best for everyone, don't you? And to resign yourself to a job where you could never give what's best to people would be hard, right? So these are very specific people that have gotten very used to that concept of, well, we're going to do what we can concept, right? That is not what you want for your child. You want what's best for your child. So how do you get what's best for your child in the school setting? You don't say best. You say appropriate, and you beat them over the head with appropriate and ask them for what their definition of appropriate is. went and bought a bunch of dictionaries once so that I could, and looked online at every dictionary so I could find the definition of appropriate that I liked, and it said effective. And so then I changed appropriate to effective. First I went into the meeting and said, what is your definition of appropriate? And they were like, well, appropriate. And I said, well, in this dictionary it says it's effective. Can we all agree that if something can't be appropriate if it's not effective, right? And they were like, well, yeah, no, we can stipulate to that. And so then I just changed appropriate to effective. And so when they would offer us something, I would ask, is it effective? And they would go, yeah, no, it's effective. And I go, great. Can you show me anything that proves that it's effective? Do you have any data? Do you have any studies? They don't have that. They don't have that. And so then I would pull out and go, see, like there's a part of me that wanted to be a lawyer at some point. We're all glad I didn't. But then I would pull out and go, well, I have these studies showing that, ABA is effective, and I have this study showing that ABA in the classroom done this way and this method, that this is effective, right? So in that way, my son got really good education, and his IEP was set up so that he could get really good education. Even now, best is not a part of the vernacular when we're talking school, but it was very effective. It was very effective. So I would say to you, cut the word best out when we're talking education, but get effective, get very effective, which for some people would mean the B word that we're not saying. You see what I'm saying? So super important, though, that it's very hard. Like, it's walking a tightrope when you're talking about IEPs and schools. And we're here, a lot of you are going back to school like tomorrow, right? And some of you have a couple of weeks, don't panic. But some people are going back to school tomorrow. And of course, we're going to want what's best for our children. And I will tell you what's best for our children is when we can work with the school to be effective. How about if we set that as the goal? If we can work with the school so that the education that they're providing our child is individually specific and effective for our child. What if that was our goal that we could accomplish? But we don't say the word best, but we go for that goal. And so that means that you've got to get the school working in tandem, and sometimes that means that you've got to show the school what they're capable of, and sometimes you have to show the school what's possible. Sometimes you're going to walk into a school and they're going to assume that your child is like the 5 children who had autism before them. And maybe your child is, but very likely they're not. And as ABA gets better, and as more kids get access to ABA, schools are going to see that there are more kids who can excel in a school setting. They will see that. And they will see that kids that need more support can excel if they're given the right kind of support. But you guys are kind of the pioneers in that area. You're the first group of individuals whose kids have had enough ABA early on. So you're going to have to forge your way through the schools. My kid was included in that, and it was tough. Let's be honest, right? But again, it's hard, but it's worth it. So I encourage you guys, the word best, I want you to think about what's best for your child, but when you get to IEPs, don't utter that word. It's a signal to the school administrators that you have not done your homework. So only in that arena, think best, don't say it. By the way, the Supreme Court, there were some schools that said appropriate was so open-ended, and they weren't thinking of appropriate as effective, and I think that's why it's important to get that working with your school. Because I don't know how you would define appropriate if it wasn't effective. And by the way, the language in IDEA says it is, they're entitled to a free, appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment in which they can have a floor of opportunity to access the curriculum. So some schools over the last 20 years said appropriate was taking somebody who didn't have skills and sticking them in a room and giving them busy work to do. Give them a worksheet where they can do something that they already know how to do. And they deemed that appropriate. Well, 2 years ago, the Supreme Court said that's de minimis, and that de minimis means in Latin the minimum, right? is not a correct interpretation of what FAPE is and what IDEA stands for. So that was 2 years ago in the Supreme Court. We have not gotten a message from the Supreme Court saying, what is appropriate, but de minimis is not. This is a really good start. The court has changed since then significantly, and we will see. We will see what happens. But right now, you're in the catbird seat because, and if you want to impress the people at the IEP, if things are not going well and you're saying, appropriate is effective, so what are you going to give us? This doesn't seem appropriate because it's not effective. How is it effective? And they go, if at some point somebody says, oh, but, we only have to do what's appropriate. You're reading into it effective. We only have to do appropriate. I would then say to them, gosh, then what is effective for you? Is it de minimis? And I would say it exactly that way, because then anybody who knows what's going on knows that you know what's going on. And sometimes that is what it's all about. I love the dad who said to me one day when I was going to an IEP meeting, and he said, oh, kabuki theater. I said, kabuki theater? No, an IEP. Kabuki theater is fun, and IEP is not fun. And he said, oh, you're looking at it wrong. It's kabuki theater. Everybody goes, they're actors, and they're playing parts, and they put on a mask. And everybody plays their part, and we all know in the end that if you're doing it right, your child is going to end up what they need, but you have to put on the mask that says, I'm angry. You have to put on the mask that says, I could have been a lawyer. You have to put on the mask that says whatever. And the administrators put on their masks too, where they act like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about, but inside they're like, oh, this is one of those parents. And I love it. It's kabuki theater. So just know that there are little things that you can do in the meeting that send the message. You don't have to beat them over the head with it. You don't have to, go through every paper and go, I talked to a lawyer. Don't tell them that. But you can say, oh, so are you thinking de minimis? Is that what you're thinking? And then you will be able to tell who knows what they're talking about, because a bunch of people at the table will go, de what? But somebody at the table will be like, no, and they'll change the subject, right? No, we're not talking about doing de minimis. Oh, then what are you talking about doing? I must have misunderstood. It sounded like de minimis is what you were suggesting. And there will be people who'll be like, I missed the bus that we're on. I don't really know what's going on. But you will be in a conversation with somebody who goes, okay, so I know I'm dealing with a parent who's done some research here, who's probably talked to a lawyer. Okay. This parent is not going to back down. And that's really the message that you have to send, that you know what you're talking about, that you're nice and pleasant and fabulous and all that, but you know what you're talking about, and you're not going to back down because you know what your child's legal rights are. If you can send that message to the people sitting across from you, things get done a lot faster, and you will get what legally your child is entitled to, which is a free, appropriate, effective public education. Not best. We have to get over that word and that feeling. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back to close out the show and tell you who is all of our guests that are going to be on this week. Stick with us. Parent to parent. One of the most frightening things there is when your child wanders away or elopes. This is when they leave an area without permission. And we know science has shown that over 50% of children on the autism spectrum will engage in this kind of behavior. But we don't have to just accept it as fact. There are things that we can do to teach our children how to appropriately ask when they want to go someplace. But before we can teach, we have to know why they're doing it. Are they wandering away to go to something, or are they wandering away to escape something? Really important that we know that. And once we do know that, then we can put in place these really effective teaching strategies. I want to remind you, though, that if your child is engaging in this kind of behavior, it's really important to work with an expert. Get professional help. They'll be able to effectively figure out why your child is doing it and put an intervention in place that's effective. And when you stop and think about it, there's nothing more important than keeping our children safe. You might be asking yourself, a BIP, what on earth is that? Welcome back to Autism Live. So just a quick second here at the end of the show. We got a big week here planned for you. So tomorrow we've got another best of Autism Live where we like to show you, because we have so much content now, you guys, that it gets lost in the mix. Sometimes we'll do a great interview with somebody and we'll go, wow, we hope that people see that. And for whatever reason, a lot of, some people see it, but other people don't. So we're trying to go back and give you some of the best that we think is super important. Then on Wednesday, Evelyn Kung will be here. She will be answering your questions. On Thursday, we've got autism expert Hillary Klein. And on Friday, I've been waiting for this. Ilana Gershlowitz is going to be with us talking about her new book, Saving My Sons. I met Ilana many years ago. She lives in South Africa. She was holding a conference in two cities, in Johannesburg and in Durban. And I had been asked to come to the conference and speak about my experience with my son. And I don't fly so well, and we had a lot going on. And I was like, do I really have to fly? And we determined that I could not. And so I Skyped in, and it wasn't the easiest thing in the world because the technology wasn't great. And I was up at like 11 o'clock at night because it was 11 o'clock in the morning there, but got to meet a lot of great parents that I've managed to keep in contact with. And that was the beginning of Ilana and her family opening the first two centers in South Africa that were for ABA. And now they have many. She'll fill us in on that. They're called the Star Academies, and they do really wonderful work. And I came to know Ilana long distance, and her husband long distance, and her kids. I'm not going to give away a lot because I want her to tell you on Friday, but for those of you who have had one child on the spectrum and then had a second child diagnosed on the spectrum, this is like, I'm emotional. This is the book that you've been waiting for, that tells the truth, that is just as raw and honest about what that feels like and what you do and how it can be amazing when you are already looking for it and catch it and know what to do. So hard, but really an amazing ride. She's somebody that I respect so much. So she's going to be with us live from South Africa. So that'll be really cool. And of course, we have Vince Redmond coming back on that program, who is super amazing, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a great deal of experience in the field of autism. So it'll be a great week, great show on Friday in particular. Until then, I hope that you guys will join us tomorrow and for our best of, and that you'll have a great week with us. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and a hug for you too. Bye-bye for now.